The following is a member of the Burke Reviews podcast family. BurkeReviews.com.
What you want?
Top 5
Movies!
Top 5
Top 5
movies. Top 5 movies.
Top 5 movies! Come on.
Top 5 movies.
Hey everybody, welcome to Burke Reviews Top 5 Movies. This is John Burke, and with me this week in person is Michael Sanchez.
Hi there.
And from a distance, Corey Starr.
Definitely not in person. Hello, guys.
Oh, she's virtual.
Or
is
together. Yep.
A virtual entity.
What are those called that they're doing at the concerts now?
A hologram?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't see you.
I don't see
If
you
you were a
either.
hologram, you would be here.
I think
You're not
AI.
looking very hard, Mike. I'm
You're
kidding.
like Siri. We're like,
I have my glasses
hey
on.
Corey, can you tell me what time it is? Hey Corey, can you give us a spoiler warning? No. How's everybody doing today?
I'm tired all of a sudden. I don't know why. It's not like I've been working. Well, I mean, I've been doing stuff, but it's not like I've been working.
Well, it's a Sunday and it's hot outside here in Florida. Corey, what's your temperature right now?
OMG. It's, I think it's like 60.
Oh my God.
It was 61 it's 64 degrees right now. Yeah, it's been being really warm. Like yesterday, I wore shorts and a short sleeve t-shirt and then...
61 is not warm.
Yeah.
No. Yes, it's been being warm, and then
okay.
it rained yesterday. It looked like it was going to storm all day, and then it finally did, but it was just like light sprinkling. We never got the storm that seemed to be promised, and then it just got really chilly.
So it rained here like all last
Yeah.
week. But it hasn't really affected the heat much. But you guys know I do the podcast with Matt from What I Watched Tonight, and he brought up how they've had a heat wave in England.
What was it, like 50?
Yeah, and it was like 65.
Was it
and
Celsius, or?
No, that's in Fahrenheit. But he asked me what it was here, and I was like, according to my app, it says it feels like 95 or something that day. Right now, it says it feels like 94, and he's like, oh my God, and he's like, it's only like 65, and I'm complaining. I'm like, yeah, that's not hot. Like if it was 65, I'd be wearing a jacket.
Which is weird, because I went from wearing like shorts and a short sleeve t-shirt yesterday, and then I needed to wear like pants and a denim jacket today.
Yeah, it's weird. We don't usually. This is no weather podcast, so I apologize, but it is funny to hear like people who are off somewhere else, because I've lived in Florida my whole life, and I am always used to this weather. As much as I'm used to is not the right word. I am familiar with this weather, and I am always complaining that it's too hot, but in my head, it's just like that everywhere. And then I realized, like, no, it's other places. It's like 60 degrees right now. But then again, in the winter, when I like the 50-degree weather here, it's negative zero, because I'm really good at math. I know. I realized it after it came out of my mouth, but it was too late to take it back.
Try to
So
divide by 0 too, and you can't do that.
I did divide by 0. But it gets really cold there, right, Corey? Like, it gets to 0 on occasion, right?
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little below, but... yeah, winter, it's usually, like 12 degrees outside and snowing.
And I don't know if I can handle that. I can definitely handle 60
It's
degrees.
disgusting.
12 degrees sounds insane.
And
So-
shoveling snow and de-icing your windshield, and it takes like 20 minutes to do that. Yeah, no thanks.
I'd rather have it.
I would probably...
Yeah, and I don't know how I'm going to be an old person, like, living here in Idaho, because guess who's not going to be shoveling or salting their driveway?
Well, I guess they'll find you in the
You-
ice pit.
You have to hire somebody to do that.
The Wampa's lair.
Well, before we get into our top 5 topic of the week, which is going to be our top 5 gap movies. These are movies that we should have watched, but for some reason we have skipped. This was definitely a challenging list to narrow down to 5, because there's a lot of movies I have not seen, and picking which 5 I feel are the most important ones that I've skipped was a little challenging. Although I think my number 1 I felt pretty confident with. I saw you went to Facebook, Mike.
Well, I did, but mostly to commiserate because I really was stumped. My number 1 pick was a no-brainer for me. But it also made it easy because I limited to the films from 2000, right?
No, you scared me for half a second there.
Oh, no.
I fell for it.
Oh, wait, no?
No,
Oh.
yeah. If you didn't listen to the last episode, I should say, there was a little hiccup with our topic, but we were a little more careful about it this week. So again, we're going to be talking about our gap list, but I know Corey and I have seen Hereditary. Mike, you've not been able to see Hereditary yet?
I haven't. I'd probably like it. I don't see why I wouldn't.
I feel like this is a one you need to make an effort to see in the theater, man. Like,
What? Wow.
it's getting a lot of buzz, and the fact that it got this wide of a release is surprising. For one, being an indie horror film, and two, an A24 film, which, while A24 is notoriously great, they don't get a lot of wide releases this fast. I mean, this was the official release date, and our theater got it.
This one got. I don't know. I had someone trying to convince me to go watch Solo, and I'm like, I don't think so.
Oh, I think you should see Solo too. It's fun.
I haven't seen that either.
It's a fun movie. It's not perfect, but it's fun. It's fun times.
Just going by the box office. And
Well, that's part of the problem is people are doing what you're doing. They're not even giving it a chance to hate. They're just not going. Because that's why the box office is so low. Yep. That happened to everybody. There was a pun, and it was mine. So, I don't know. I don't have anything really to talk about except that I have been, for the last almost 3 years now, watching an excessive amount of movies to try to minimize my gaps in my viewing history. And I've done a tremendous job over the years, but it's impossible to get all of them. And so while I've watched, I think almost at this point, almost 1,000 movies in 3 years, I still have a lot that I haven't seen. So this list I thought would be interesting to kind of see where we fall with the big ones. Which ones have we skipped, and maybe why? So that's how we'll talk about our list this week. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we jump into our list?
I mean, thanks to you, we removed Hudson Hawk off the list.
Yes, which I'm sure was number one on your gap list, both of you.
Two on mine.
Challenge.
Oh, see, you guys are lucky that I beat you last year, and soon, unless another movie comes out of nowhere, I think I'm going to win solely because of Avengers, because I got so many points from Avengers.
I don't even know why we are keeping Cal anymore.
Well, I thought Solo would do way better than it's done.
I had that.
I thought it would get hate, but I still thought it would make money, and it's not making any money. And then Jurassic World, we'll have to wait and see, although oddly, Jurassic World's already out in England, but it doesn't come out here till the 22nd. So Matt already went and saw it. Won't tell me if he liked it or not just yet because he knows that I'm a fan. But from what I saw on his Instagram, he liked it enough. But I don't expect it to be perfect. I just want to have a good time with it and hope that that's I can do that because
I will. Oh, go ahead.
I just realized, so when we went to see Jurassic World, I'm so bad with those titles, but anyways, our meme went with us, and she was so fun. She was like, and we took her to see it in IMAX, so it was even more fun. And I just realized she's going to be here for this one, so we might have to take her to the movies again.
oh, that'll be fun times.
Yes.
Her grandma?
Oh, okay. Because the way
It's
I
French
heard
for grandma.
Oh, yeah,
It's meme. It's French for grandma.
Meme.
Oh, I haven't gotten to that level on Duolingo, but that's besides the point.
It feels like that would be an early one on Duolingo.
No, it's surprisingly not.
All right.
I will say I was surprised by a trailer this week, and I had to share it with one of my students because I had a jaw drop moment, and it was one that I didn't realize I might want to see until I saw the trailer for How to Train Your Dragon.
You know, I've not watched the.
I haven't seen the trailer,
new
but I wanna see
trailer
it.
for it yet.
I won't say too much because I kind of thought, let me put it on, and then I watched it several times before I sent it out to a couple different people.
That's a movie that I really enjoyed both, and yet I don't think I've gone to rewatch either. And I'm not. It's like a franchise that I know that I really liked when I saw it, but I don't attach to it for some reason.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I didn't think I would want to even have any interest, and the trailer did its job.
I need to see. I need to watch it because there was a lot of good trailers this week. The trailer for Damien Chazelle's First Man came out. That's the Neil Armstrong biopic with Ryan Gosling playing Neil Armstrong. Has a very serious tone about the trailer. Like they really want you to understand how much risk he was putting into doing this, and the trailer's really good. Corey, have you seen the First Man trailer?
No, just the poster.
And then we have Danny McBride and I forget the other guy's name, but their take on Halloween. The trailer dropped this week.
Yes. That's right. I can't believe I forgot that trailer because we had.
We actually talked about it. Yeah, the checkerboard cheese board. At the prison yard sequence really irritated me, but the rest, I mean, I liked the look of the mask, like the aged kind of like
What
textured.
did they do to that mask that it got so old? They
I know.
just let
It's
it
just
out,
been
hang
sitting
out
in-
on
yeah.
the dashboard. Or someone's been driving around with the William Shatner mask. A lot of hate.
Yeah. But Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and from my understanding, this is supposed to be the third movie. That 1 and 2 happened, 2 ends, and then nothing has happened until this one. That's
See, I didn't take it as that. I take it threw out everything past the first one.
my understanding of the script being written. Is McBride and the other guy, whoever his writing partner is, whose name I do not know, and I apologize for that. They wrote it as the third movie, so
And that's fine.
But-
because it's the
because
age of the
she
retcons.
died in one of in H2O or something like that. He kills Jamie Lee Curtis in one of the other movies. So the fact that
that's-
she's in
they
this
had to
says
fix
that
that.
there's a retcon right there.
Oh, it's Michael Myers' Days of Future Past.
There it is. Wolverine travels back in time and stabs him with his claws. No, and then there was one more trailer that is not coming to mind initially. I cannot. Well, I haven't actually watched the Spider-Verse trailer for the new animated Spider-Man movie, which is getting a lot of praise. I saw the original trailer, but the new trailer shows a bunch of the other Spider-Man. The Bad Times at the El Royale. Did you see that trailer? That movie looks very weird but interesting. It has Chris Hemsworth, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, Nick Offerman, Jeff Bridges. There was somebody else in it, but they're not popping up early on their list here. It's directed by Drew Goddard and written by Drew Goddard, and it looks.
Oh, I'll now be into that because having
The trailer looks interesting for sure. And
What
then
else is Dakota Johnson in? Did I?
50 Shades.
No,
Oh,
she's in
her.
something else.
Yeah, she's in
something
another
else
film.
that I wanted to write off, and then I thought that may not be too bad.
Matt was just talking about it. I cannot think of what it was now because there were 2 trailers with her in it that dropped.
I gotta look it up because
Yeah, I can't remember.
I wanted to just.
But the Bumblebee trailer has shocked everybody. Have you watched it?
I did, but they got the idea that he's a Volkswagen Bug, correct, but the transformation's not correct. I didn't even how I didn't recognize
Haley Steinfeld.
in it until I looked up, and I just looked and saw that. I don't know. I've been let down by this, and
Well, the director though is his first feature non-animated. This is Travis Knight. He directed Kubo and the Two Strings, and he works for Leica Studios. So I am I'm excited
Okay.
about it.
it's just we've been let down before.
It's Michael Bay produced. Michael Bay is not hands-on. Obviously, I like the fact that they are using the Beetle though for Bumblebee.
Yes, I do like that.
Although again, the Transformer movies have changed their origin story. I think in every single film, like because the first movie is like
It
they
might
just
be.
arrived. This one, he's obviously been here since like the 70s. So who knows? They just keep changing everything.
Out of all the Transformers, Bumblebee was always up there. For me, was one of my top ones. Soundwave, Perceptor. I don't know why Perceptor. I guess because I don't know why Perceptor. It was a cool
I'm not even sure who that
microscope,
is.
working microscope that
Oh, okay.
that well toy. But it just hit me. Dakota Johnson's appearance in Suspiria.
Oh, that's right. That trailer
Yeah.
dropped. I haven't watched that one yet though.
I did not have any interest in, and then I kept watching the trailer over and over, and
Well,
I think it convinced me.
Corey and I are in the minority with the original Suspiria, so I'm not super hyped for the remake.
It could only be improved on if you didn't like it.
I mean, in theory, or it could just be even more of a B movie, right? Like, because I don't know. It definitely depends on what they're going to change about it for me to like it. Because I don't know.
And hold on. I remember reading something about the soundtrack to that. Didn't Tom York of Radiohead do the soundtrack for
That would
it?
explain, if that's the case, that would explain that's what added to
Yep.
the trailer. It was
did
very
the score for it.
atmospheric. It was very. There was a lot.
I heard
to be said for the music.
at CinemaCon they showed some teaser stuff, and I heard that like there was a scene with I think somebody dancing in a mirror and them just like getting contorted. I don't know if that's in the trailer or not because I haven't watched the show.
Ring a bell. I'd have to look at it again. It caught my it did its job. I mean, the trailers that I watched, gone back and forth, but overall made me want to go see the film. Which
Interesting.
means-
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do, right? I tend to try to see a little bit of everything. I'm still behind on a few movies from the theater. I've been sick since last Sunday, and I can't quite shake it. I don't think I'm contagious, Mike. I probably should have warned you before you came. And then, but nonetheless, I will power through. We're going to get into our list this week, though. Again, these are going to be movies that we have not seen that we think are vital to our viewing And of course, the question might be still like, why, if they're so vital, why haven't we gone ahead and watched them? I'll tell you now. I'm looking at my 5, and I think it's still going to be a while before I watch these 5 movies, even though I literally have access to all 5 of them right now, and I still don't think I'm going to watch any of them this month, and probably not before the end of the summer for various reasons, and not because I don't want to, but I don't want to. It's a weird kind of feeling. But let's get into this. This week, Corey's going to be going first. Mike will go second. I will go third. We've made our list in secret, and we, on the podcast, reveal our list to each other and give each other crap about them, especially probably now, because there's a chance that some of our gaps might be the other people's favorite movies or something. And then Corey and I like to make a wager on how many of Mike's movies we've seen. This is going to be interesting because this is movies Mike hasn't seen. So does that mean, Corey, we are more likely to have seen them because they're movies Mike hasn't bothered to watch?
I mean, let's go with, you know what I mean? Let's just do what we usually do.
Right.
Except, maybe movies that we've seen that Mike has on his list that he hasn't seen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to... No, all of Mike's movies he hasn't seen, so that wouldn't make sense. I'm going to go... I've seen 2 of Mike's movies that he has not seen.
Okay.
Corey?
I'll go 1.
You got you lowballed the lowball.
She sounded like Legion of Doom. I thought she was like, what a rush. I don't know if you guys WWE back in the day.
I don't.
All right, Corey. What's the we got to give a spoiler warning so the listeners don't get these movies ruined.
Guys, you can go to burkreviews.com and check out each of our top 5 lists. Otherwise, from here forward, we'll be talking about the movies in great detail. You've been warned.
Although, to secondary kind of counter the spoiler warning, these are movies we haven't seen, so we may not have anything to spoil.
But other people might have seen them, which I would hope none of us would spoil it for the other person.
Correct. But you never know. You never know what we might know about these movies or whatever. So just in case, if you want to look at our list before you listen, although I do think we probably will unlikely spoil any of this because
maybe people will spoil it for us.
Oh, they'll email us. Here's how it ends.
Sending it as we talk. Wait, that won't work.
I think most of these I know how they end because they are kind of iconic films and it's hard to not hear things.
Credits.
Yes. So with that, Corey, you're going to start us off. What is your number 5 Gap movie?
I can't. Okay, I'm gonna go with To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, I've also not seen To Kill a Mockingbird, actually.
I am sitting here with a face of judgment, but go on.
I really want to read the book first.
That's the wrong order.
Oh.
No. I have a friend who's like that too, but I like to see what they do with the movie and how it compares to the book. Puts me down on movies most of the time, but I really want to read the book. But even the book is very divisive. People either really love it or they really hate it, and I hear the same thing about the movie. So one of the many that I haven't gotten around to see.
Go
ahead.
Well, I'll be honest. I have not read the book, but the film I've seen so many times. But go ahead. Go on. Explain yourself.
I already did. I want to read the book first.
What's stopping
I'm
you
a
from
slow
reading
reader,
the
and I
book?
need.
Okay.
I have so many books I need to read before this. I was in school last semester, and I just didn't have a lot of personal time.
I mean, I feel like you've had a lot of time to read this book at this point. Like,
I have. Okay, so you talked about how you slid through school not reading any books.
Yeah.
Same here. And then it's like I hear about all these people that are the same age as me, and they've read all these books. And I'm like, what? I read The Pro in 8th grade, and I think that was the end of my reading in school career.
They didn't give us a lot of novels at Winter Haven High School when I was there, and I think the only one I remember reading in its entirety was 1984, which I really liked a lot. The movie, not as much. And
so many times, and I just can't.
Oh, you can't read it?
I've tried reading it 4 or 5 times, and I always get to the same part, and I'm like, bored.
Oh, wow. See, I was so compelled by it, but I know I need to see this movie. It's got a good cast. Gregory Peck, Robert Duvall's in it, and
his acting. His first acting, I think I read.
Gregory Peck.
No, Robert.
Man, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it probably is. Because this movie it's from 1962. So that's one both Corey and I could have on our list. It's not on mine. I did consider it, but it's I don't have it as a big priority to see now. But it's on my to watch list. But my to watch list is extensive. So one day I might get to this movie. All right. Well, and Mike, you're obviously a fan. So is this a movie you purposely go back to, or is it just one like if it's on, you're gonna watch it kind of thing?
Well, we own it now. Abby had to read it and watch it, and so we ended up purchasing it instead of trying to rent it or find it elsewhere. It just was easier to outright buy it. So we have it. I want to say on Amazon Video.
Okay.
But like I said, I sheepishly admit that I have not read this book. We read a lot in school. The abridged version of Les Mis, 1984 was on that list. Brave New World. They had us reading lots of stuff, and I'll be honest, some of them stuck, some of them did not. The ones that stuck that won't ever be made into films because they're more like a non-fictional kind of treatment. I've even shared with students since that time. It's one of those that I'll buy multiple copies of, and just because it's just stuck with me.
All right. Well, I think that leads into your number 5, Mike. What do you have on your number 5?
Okay, so this particular one's a historical horror drama focused on what is known as a Japanese Unit 731. And I have seen at least one docudrama about the Nanking Massacre or the rape of Nanking, something that isn't typically focused on in high school World War II history lessons. We don't hear about a whole lot or talk about a whole lot about the Japanese treatment of the Chinese during that time period. And it actually came up during this year. It came up in class this year, and I'm not going to not talk about it, and I could at least share what knowledge I have and what was done with that. That said, I have shied away from this film from 1988, and it's really obscure, so if you guys have even heard of it, I'll be very surprised, called Men Behind the Sun. It's notorious in its graphic depictions of what was going on, the experimentations. Think of the way the Germans did what they did. The Japanese had that side of it, and it's kind of puzzling to me because I've likely really seen much worse than what's in this, as far as because I've been watching horror for quite some time, but it's not one that I've rushed out to try and dig up. And the dichotomy there is the previously mentioned a couple of times a Serbian film I sought out of morbid curiosity, I suppose. And I guess I'm a person of internal conflict, and that's readily apparent with this because I don't know. I just maybe my morbid curiosity, maybe it's too real because I know that this actually happened as opposed to a Serbian film, as horrifying and horrible as that is and was, and I don't want to ever revisit that, and I keep mentioning it, but there we are. Maybe because this historically, happened, and the things that occurred were done to people, and maybe that's that.
Well, I just skimmed through the user reviews on IMDb, and almost everyone, the early stuff was all very high, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, but with all big warnings, caveats, it's a film that you should watch if this is something you think you can handle because of the historical accuracy. But it's devastating. It's unforgettable, and one you probably only want to see one time, and then never again.
I think one of mine that she watches anime the way I do. We talked a little bit about the Grave of the Fireflies, and I had a difficult enough time with that one.
I still need to watch that one, but that's one you've recommended to me before, and I'm not as apt in my anime viewing. I could probably have a whole gap list just on the Studio Ghibli films, much less others. But you definitely, you're more willing to put yourself into this type of thing, and I'm surprised you haven't seen it as much as you are intrigued by it. So is it hard to get? I would imagine it seems like this.
I would figure this one's a real difficult one because it's one of the few that got a certain classification in Hong Kong. I forget. you know how the
Like-
NC-17
Yeah, that
or
type of-
AO, adults only and whatnot, designation is given, and I don't know that it would have gotten distributorship here.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably get it online now, or
Yeah.
for sure, like bootleg or whatever. But you could. I haven't like Googled it, but I'm sure it's probably available in some format. I mean, I was at MegaCon, and there's a guy that has like all sorts of bootleg. He had the Roger Corman.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
that
and, like,
was a lot
stuff-
more readily
Yeah,
available.
but I'm saying like he has all the stuff that I
never
didn't even know
know.
exist. It's like I didn't know that was a thing, and or that. But man, we're gonna be going into a very different type of movie with my number 5. Corey, do you have anything to add to Mike's horrific number 5?
I will never be able to watch that. I'm just reading the Wikipedia about the actual massacre, and
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, Hereditary is a tough watch, and that's complete fiction. So I don't know if I can handle something I know is supposed to be true. Although that kind of makes me, I kind of feel like I have to watch it, even though the movie's not. It's not a documentary, but like just to, I feel bad for not.
Be aware.
knowing. Yeah, like we just watched Milk, Corey and I, for movie club, and I didn't know anything about that, and I mean, and that's not to the level of what we're talking about with this movie, but still, like, that's something that I think is important historically, and I knew nothing about, and it happened just a few years before I was born, and it's like, how do I not know anything about this? And this movie's been out for 10 years, and I feel guilty for not seeing it faster.
I'm there too because I haven't watched Milk either. I just have been aware, and it was supposedly well done.
It's very well done, and I think Corey and I think agreed James Franco's best performance. As it's a small performance, mind you.
his least James Franco performance.
It's very subtle for a Franco performance, and I like that.
There's another docudrama, and I wanted to say it was called Auschwitz, and it was really well done, and I caught most of it. I just happened to not catch all of it. I won't say it's Ken Burns' length, but it was a pretty good, pitch, a good investment of time, and that's one I would dive into that. Oddly enough,
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I've had students. I know during Memorial Day, I had students share with me their visits to their grandparents, memorials and their gravesites. I've had students actually been to Auschwitz and describe it and talk about it, and so, which is very unusual for me. I'm not used to students actually having hands-on knowledge and having been able to visit and done stuff.
Yeah,
I've not been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird when that does happen, but it's not completely uncommon. I mean, when you have 100 students, that one of them has been fortunate.
And,
but
I mean, it brings another perspective. It definitely makes it more real, especially when they can share.
yeah,
With
and
the
people,
rest of the
yeah,
class.
because it's a peer talking about it. Yeah. Not to transition too harshly, but into my number 5, which has a very different tone than the war movie that you just talked about. I guess it's actually kind of a counter to that. Mine is an animated film that many people have given me crap for, but I want to point out that it was the year it came out. I was a senior in high school, and seeing a cartoon was not on the top of my priority list. In fact, if anything, I probably looked at it and said, "This is for babies," and didn't go. And since then, it has become a very big fan favorite, and was even made an appearance in a movie from this year. It's 1999's The Iron Giant, directed and written by Brad Bird. This is a film that I constantly have students give me crap about for having not seen because they've all grown up with this movie. It's on Netflix. I think it might even be on Prime. And I've just had no interest in seeing it. I still kind of don't. But it's one that I am constantly being like, literally yesterday a student said, "Hey, did you know Iron Giant's on Netflix?" I'm like, "Yes, I did know that." Still not a priority. But it's got Jennifer Aniston. Vin Diesel says, "I am Groot" or something in it.
Yes, he practices it the whole time.
There's
Harry Connick.
There's actually a lot of big names in this movie. Yeah, and it's Brad Bird, who is Incredibles 2 comes out and just.
That's why you should watch this.
But
I think it's right.
I've just never never had an interest in this movie, and it's.
How dare you,
I know.
sir.
I mean no offense. It's just not one that's. Nothing about it really appeals to me. And I've heard enough about it. I know what it is, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. Maybe one day, but.
I think my son took to it. I don't know that Abby. Actually, I'll be honest. I don't know that Abby's watched this one. But we both took to it, so we watched it several times. And I know that for a while we had a VHS copy of it. And it's not. I mean, it's looking back at it, it probably seems really heavy-handed in its treatment. However, it just worked, and then when you get to the end, and you're not. I don't want to give too much away about the ending. But
Well, yeah, I will likely see it eventually, and
You should.
I don't know
Tonight.
that I'll watch it this summer. But I referenced that he was in a movie, and obviously the Iron Giant appears in Ready Player One. To much chagrin from the fans of Iron Giant, because the Iron Giant is used as a fighting robot in Ready Player One, and that is counter to everything from the movie, from my understanding.
But his original design. Well,
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know he's designed for war, but he's into peace or whatever. Yeah,
he's a
just
filthy hippie.
looking at the animation, it just doesn't appeal to me. It just feels so dated, even though it's not. I mean, it's '99. And I know that's the art style they're going for.
I
But
just think it held. I think it holds
yeah,
up.
well, and I'm not saying it's bad in the big sense. I'm saying it just doesn't appeal to my sensibilities and why
We're
I
gonna
put it off.
use the War Machine capability and bash those sensibilities.
Oh man, okay. That seems harsh, but
It's what he would do.
oh okay.
Earth is original programming.
Well, Corey, have you ever seen Iron Giant?
Yes, but it's been a long time.
Are you a fan at least?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Oh, okay. There's she
And
added a
my
lot.
husband has actually seen this too at some point in his life. So I mean, Bill doesn't watch movies. I feel like that's a win.
Yeah. Well, it's on my gap list, so eventually I will watch it. Maybe sooner now that you guys are both pressuring me.
Peer pressure. Peer.
Let's go to Corey's.
Shia LaBeouf here. Do it.
Let's go to Corey's number
Just
4
do
before
it.
Mike does another Shia LaBeouf impression.
I can't.
You know
so my
what his
number.
last name means in French?
LaBeouf?
Oh.
Does it mean
LaBeouf.
the naked?
The beef.
The beef. Okay.
Anyway,
Corey.
Okay. My number 4 is Casablanca. Not.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie. And I guess that I had the wrong idea about it. I was reading the synopsis, and here I was thinking it was just a love story. So that's my ignorance. And this is where I get fired. But I also found out that it isn't as long as I thought it was. It's
No,
only
it's actually
2 hours.
under 2 hours.
no, it's not.
Yeah, because it's hard for me to work myself up to watch a huge epic, but I'm kind of interested now that I know what it's actually about. Well, there's one on my list that's like 3 hours long, so
Epic of 2 whole hours.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 3 hours long though.
Well, this is one of 5 movies, I think. I could be wrong now. It's 5 or 6 movies on Metacritic that has 100.
Dang.
And of all time, there's only like 5 or 6 movies on Metacritic that has a 100 score, and this is one of them. I think. Well, I don't want to say because they might be on one of your lists, depending on how versed you are. I can gladly say this is not on my gap list. This was one I watched in my 366, though. So it's only 2 years ago that I watched this. But I watched it apprehensively, not thinking I would enjoy it, and I loved it. So, Corey, I can't stress to you enough that you watch this movie. Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, just amazing. I was really, really blown away by it, actually. So it's one that I hold in high regard.
I'll be full disclosure. The first time I watched it, I fell asleep. But I think I was working like a swing shift and all that. I'm glad I watched it without, actually watch it. It's not on my gap list. It is. Yeah, Corey, why are you still listening to us?
Yeah,
Watch it
just
right
turn this off and go and watch Casablanca.
now. Just give us the list of your other ones and just watch this one starting now.
All right, Corey, you still there?
Apparently she has.
Nope, I left to go watch the movie.
Good. That was a good play. All right, so Mike and I both say Corey needs to watch this immediately, just like you both said I need to watch Iron Giant. So we've got some homework, Corey.
And movie club material.
And I would say it would be cool if we actually were to check off our 5 before the end of, like, let's say a year from now. If by June of next year we've watched all 5 of our movies each, that would be pretty cool. Well, maybe yours might be harder because you picked a movie that's like tough to watch and also maybe probably hard to get. But all right, well, let's go into Mike's number 4.
Okay. Well, speaking of trying to get those off the list, okay. Well, let me preface this because a few years back there was a documentary, and it may not have been that long ago, maybe a couple of years back, there was a documentary that covered a failed Dune project that had director Alejandro Jodorowsky, and I might be doing a hatchet job on the last name, attached to it. And I'll be Anna. And Hollywood Babylon just did an exquisite acting compilation on
Dune?
the Dune, David Lynch version of Dune, which I love.
Yeah.
And I know it's a no gray area, either love, hate. However, because of this documentary, and this is leading to my pick, and I promise I'll get there. I'm just taking the long way around like I do sometimes. It would have been something because the art director, Mobius, was attached as far as doing art, and just it would have been something to see. But it fell apart. So obviously that film wasn't made, so I can't pick it. But it reminded me of the fact that I had not watched the director's 1970 acid western known as El Topo. It's also known as The Mole Stateside, but I think most people know it as El Topo. And it tells the tale of a nomadic, not quite solitary gunslinger named El Topo. And I say not quite solitary because he's accompanied by his son along his travels. And I wish that I could say this particular work was been in the breadth of my knowledge for quite some time, but it's not. It's kind of was... I think I might have... Miami gets to, having grown up, you see a bunch of different things, and I think this film had a midnight movie circuit run, and I don't know that it necessarily had in Miami, but maybe flipping through channels I might have caught part of it because it's really trippy, it's really out there, and I've only known of it for a couple of years, so I can use that as an excuse for not having been able to watch it, as well as the fact that just like my number 5 pick, it's probably not easy to find and dig up.
Yeah.
As classic as it is, it's probably an acquired taste, but I get a feeling that this totally would appeal to my sensibilities.
It seems like it. I'm curious. I've never heard the phrase acid western, but my brain thought to like The Doors, like Oliver Stone. It's just
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, just them, doing peyote in the desert.
Or Natural Born Killers to the extreme. Very simple. Well, there we go again, Oliver Stone.
Yep.
So something along that, and maybe he was influenced by
Something like this.
Yeah,
It's interesting. I've not heard of that, but there's a picture on IMDb of him wearing like an all black cowboy with like this really bushy beard, and he looks like a current actor who was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine for a while.
Dear Lord.
I cannot think of his name. It's driving me crazy because I know he's a comedian too. I'm gonna see if I can pull him up because the beard is what does it to me. Like I'm like, Jason Mantzoukas, like the way his beard looks, and even the crazy look on his face. Looks like if you put the cowboy hat on, it would look like that guy. I was like, oh man, is that Mantzoukas from the 70s? Like what?
Wow, El Topo really cleaned up.
Yeah, man. But all right, Corey, have you ever heard of El Topo?
Nope.
I figured not.
I feel like I'm gonna have 0 of Mike's list.
We probably are gonna have 0 on Mike's list. Mike went real fringe. It looks like for his list. Not surprised. Corey, you mentioned the length of Casablanca, and of course you were wrong. It's not 2 hours, but my movie for number 4 is 3 hours and 9 minutes, and one of the reasons why I've not watched it.
I feel like I know which one you're about to say.
And the other reason I've not watched it is because everyone who's ever told me about it says how sad it is, and I for a long time avoided sad movies. Now I did not realize this was also 1999, but it's The Green Mile. The Green Mile
man.
stars Tom Hanks, Michael Clark Duncan, David Morse, and I know Sam Rockwell, who is one of my favorite actors, is in it as well.
His role.
And he's awful in this, from what I hear.
Yes.
Not awful performance, awful person.
Character is
Directed by Frank Darabont, and it's a Stephen King adaptation. I've just never been compelled to sit through the 3-hour movie for things that I've already heard about, an emotional downer at times, and then very hopeful at other times. It's a movie that's probably been spoiled for me in terms of plot, but it sounds like a real tough sit through, like 3 hours. No,
it doesn't ever feel like 3 hours. Even watching the televised version, which
it's
runs
gotta be
even
like
longer.
6 hours with commercials.
I probably 4, but it runs longer. Now, I'm a Stephen King fan.
Yeah, I knew that.
And again, making those connections and finding out the ones that read horror, I'm like, have you read this? And they were aware of the mess, so I share what I can, and I dug up one of my collections. I remember when this was released as a monthly serial mini novel collection because they would be, and it was, I want to say 9 of them, and I got them all, and I didn't. I mean, those. Just like videos had days of release, the books had days of release, and we still had a bookstore in the mall. Boom, I went and got it. And I did it the opposite. I read it all, and then, obviously the film adaptation. And Frank Darabont, I mean, you're a Shawshank Redemption fan, right?
I do like Shawshank. Although that was the one on my gap list for a long time until the challenge.
Okay. It's crazy that this is Stephen King, and there's two total. They're both prison movies, both different tones, both different stuff. Same director, and just the way it works and the story. Some of it is pretty. I won't say ham-fisted, but it seems pretty. John Coffey, J.C., the savior kind of.
Yeah.
Kind
Which
of
I've
role
heard
that
those
he's-
elements.
Yeah, that's very Stephen King like. Just overall, I mean, I don't see it as sad. It's more the hopeful.
Okay. Well, I guess I've just heard people say that it makes them cry, and to me that it means sad. But obviously, you can have,
gonna be
but you can have tears of joy. And again, especially when it came out, I avoided all dramas that looked like they were just there to make you cry because I didn't want to cry. I was that toxic masculinity of the '90s where I didn't want. Men don't cry. It's wrong to cry. I'm way past that now. I cry at movies all the time, but it's still one that, knowing it's 3 hours, knowing that I've heard a lot of the plot elements, and I've heard nothing but good things. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they hate The Green Mile. It's just, I don't know. It's one I keep at a distance. I've owned it. I bought it during the 366 with the intention of watching it.
See, now
And
you
it's-
even have
I
it.
have all 5 of these movies on my list, except
wow.
Iron Giant I don't have, but I have easy access to because it's on Netflix, and it's also in the $5 bin at Walmart if I ever want to buy it. But
I mean, it's set on a death row wing of prison, and I mean, there is some brutal stuff as far as there's one whole scene with an execution, and it's not easy. Well, there's actually a couple of different ones, and one's a whole lot more difficult to watch.
Corey, have you seen The Green Mile?
Yes, not in a long time. I enjoyed it. I also agree that it didn't feel like it was that long.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
that's coming from a person who
hates
finds a
long
2-hour
movies, yeah.
commitment to be.
It's hard to commit.
So that's one I know that I guarantee you listeners are like gasping because I think that's one of those populist movies that most people have seen, The Green Mile, and I've kind of purposely avoided it. And
I kind of miss Frank Darabont working on movies. I guess I don't know what's happened.
yeah,
I really enjoyed The Mist despite the ending. The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, his work. You can tell the difference between when he was on The Walking Dead and then not. Because I'm kind of done with that show.
I haven't seen The Majestic from him either with Jim Carrey.
It was okay. That one's again, it's not working off of Stephen. I think he did well with all the Stephen King adaptations. In fact, he could adapt any of them, and I'm sure they would be quite fine.
Yeah, it seems like he's walked away just from everything. He hasn't had a writing credit or a directing credit for a
Right.
while.
Something's up. Something happened. Something.
Maybe he just got burned out of the system, you know?
That's a shame because he's very talented, and the stuff he put out was very good.
I know
and
that
I think it
feel
had
like
good
The
returns.
Green Mile and Shawshank, if you talk to casual moviegoers, those are usually on somebody's 1 and 2. And Shawshank especially. People, you mentioned Shawshank to casual, and Forrest Gump, who isn't Darabont, but nonetheless, those 3 movies seem to come up in not excessive movie watchers, like film history, like those are their tops. All right, let's go to Corey's number 3. Corey, what's the number 3 movie that you have not seen?
I chose 1941 Citizen Kane.
Now I have seen this one, so I'm glad. But I almost mentioned this one because I figured this was going to be on one of your lists because a lot of people have not had access to this. This is one of the other movies that have 100 on Metacritic. So 2 of yours, Corey, have hundreds on Metacritic.
Well then, what am I waiting on? Sorry, work. I won't be there tomorrow. I've got to catch up on some movies.
The
Watch me
ones
be
that you
sick tomorrow
should
now.
watch. Oof.
I'm kidding. So I am intrigued by this movie. I just haven't gotten around to it. And again, not as long as I thought it was. I
Nope.
think it slides right in at 2 hours too. And I think that I just am interested in Orson Welles as a person. I haven't read a whole bunch, but Because he did War of the Worlds
He
on the
read it,
radio.
yeah. Correct.
Right. Okay. And didn't that like scare people?
Oh, yeah, people thought it was
like
real.
genuinely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I need to watch this one.
Orson Welles has a very tumultuous career. This is considered the masterpiece of film. He directs and acts in this film. He also is credited with screenplay, although not sole credit. And his other big films, Third Man and Touch of Evil.
I was just about to mention that one.
And then he has Othello and there's something Ambersons. I can't think of the Majestic Ambersons or something like that. It usually comes to me, but it's not. But I've seen Touch of Evil and I've seen Citizen Kane. I've not watched Third Man, but that one is on Netflix. Touch of Evil has Charlton Heston in brownface because he plays a Mexican, and that's racist.
Well, I mean, I
time.
thought it was great in Get Shorty that the little nod was given to Touch of Evil.
Oh,
and-
interesting.
Yeah, there's a
I
whole
need to
little
watch Get
thing where
Shorty.
they talk.
That's on my gap list. Yeah. I watched this while I was in Boston 2 years ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. I showed it to my students while I was out with dental surgery to my first year kids, and they hated it, but I wasn't there to give any kind of context, so they didn't really understand what was happening with parts of it. And the story is, it moves from his childhood to his adulthood, and it's told more from a perspective of a journalist investigating why he said Rosebud as his last words. And so I think the narrative can be confusing especially if you're not giving it 100% of your attention, because it will replay parts but from different perspectives. And it's really intriguing, and it's very, very cultural of the time, and it shows a lot of what it was to be wealthy and who this man was. And it's an epic film. His use of light and shadow. There's a story that he wanted to shot so close to the ground that he had to dig a hole in the concrete floor of the set to get the camera down low enough that he could get the wide shot that he wanted. So there's all sorts of stuff with this movie. Corey, I highly recommend that you do watch this. It is not, it is readily available, but you usually have to buy like a box set, or you can get it digitally now. But that's why I had not seen it for a long time, was I didn't want to drop $25 on it. So, but digital is only like 10, but I recommend it.
I do have one issue with it, and I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Who was around to hear Rosebud?
Yeah, no, that part of the story does not make a lot of sense.
Okay.
I agree, and that's been
But
debated.
that's a minor thing that you're really picking at.
Yeah, but it is the thing that sets the entire ball in motion, so it feels like somebody should have been a little closer, just so that someone heard it, because he looks like he's completely alone in a cavernous room full of boxes, and that is a dispute I think most people will throw at this movie, and I can't
But
fault it.
overall, that small, minor detail does not take
Yeah.
away from.
But the exploration and how the story is told, and each scene has so much like filmmaking just at its finest. Wells is a genius, although he is credited with like basically bankrupting RKO and things like that. So, yeah, because he would go over budget. He was a artist first, followed rules second. But yeah, and he had a tumultuous career. But Corey, definitely one I think you should remedy, and I feel like everyone should. I think it is easy to get bored with if you don't do a little bit of research onto what the movie's talking about, because there are some cultural things of the time that if you're unfamiliar with, maybe you don't get what they're referencing. I think I was like Googling things while I was watching it, just like, wait, what is that? Oh, okay. And then I would go with it, where my students weren't doing that, and I wasn't there to give them that information. My mistake. I've never let that down. They still will, like that one movie. I'm like, don't say Citizen Kane sucks. You can say you didn't like it, but you cannot say it sucks. And yeah, that's an ongoing complaint, but I'll shut up about it. Mike, what's your number 3? What obscure thing have you found for us this time?
Number 3. This one is also obscure, and we're headed back. This is the second of my selections that is set during the World War II time period. However, this one is not a historical account, but more of a treatment or a change up on Dante's Divine Comedy. And this one's from 1975, called Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom. It's typically just shortened down to Salo. S-A-L-O.
Oh, I just saw this when I was scrolling through high gross, like high rated films that I've never seen on Letterboxd.
This one's been on my list for some time. I think mostly, not so much. I think mostly because it's more difficult to get a hold of. Some of the content's going to be rough. The availability is really mostly, and I even wrote that, is likely my deterrent.
It's on Criterion though.
But
I don't know why I said Criterion like I just did, like Criterion. Like it's,
Criterion.
that sounds like a Transformer. Criterion.
Criterion. You were putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
But directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini. Why did I try? Why did I even?
Because it's your thing. That's what you do.
But I'm positive that the mom and pop video store I frequented during my misspent youth very likely had this, and so at some point it caught my eye then. But it didn't probably register, trigger my radar, or maybe I was reluctant because at that point I was not want to pick up a foreign film for consumption. I was definitely into horror, which this is kind of horrific. In any case, a lot of this is going to be graphic. There's an infamous scene where coprophilia is the main focus, and coprophilia, or you can call it scatophilia.
Oh,
without being too revolting, it involves excrement.
yeah, that's what.
And
the second
it's
one.
probably worse than the human centipede, which I've seen all three parts of. I know. I
Dear
have.
God, Mike,
What?
you've seen all three human centipedes?
Yes, I have. I do not. I am not a better person for it, but I can tell others. to
I don't
stay
know why they
away.
made 3.
I don't know why I watched all three.
I thought it was weird when they did the box set that just they taped the 3 separate boxes together.
That's clever. But anyway, confusing, yes. Welcome to my conflicted personality, and that's a major oof.
Well, this movie is on Criterion, which means it might be on Filmstruck though, so you could try the 14-day free trial to knock it out.
I could, but then I'll be sucked in, and I'll have to cancel something else, and I don't want to give up my monthly T-shirts.
So there are. This movie, just the box art freaks me out because it is a naked woman. You can't see her nudity, mind you. It's covered up, but she is clearly crying, crumpled on the floor, and then there are tally marks all over the box. And it just the box art alone is enough to not make to make me.
That's
not
a
wanna
different
watch it.
art than I'm used to.
That's the one that was on Letterboxd, so it's, that's the Criterion box art because that's what I recognize. Because I'm like, I didn't even look at what it was. I'm just like, that movie looks like something I would not watch. Oh, that's messed up too.
Worse, yes.
Good Lord, Mike, what is? All right, so my movie, mine are so mainstream. Mine are so boring, like by comparison. Well, Corey's are like the classics of movies that people consider like the best. Mine are like.
I think you both will be shocked, given my first 3 picks. My last 2 picks, you're going to be like, "What?
Okay.
Are we doing?"
All right, good. Thank goodness, because
Yeah, because these are movies I'm never gonna watch.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm looking at John said that, and I had to like Google image it, and I'm like, oh heck no. Like,
Yeah,
I'm feeling guilty. I haven't watched it.
yeah.
oh my god.
Mine are like. In fact, this one there's a good chance that if you're a college student listening to this podcast, that you might have this poster on your wall. I have never seen Scarface from 1983, and this is Brian De Palma's Scarface, not the original. I haven't actually seen the old version of Scarface, either the 1950s, nor have I seen the remake that's not out yet, but they're supposedly doing. But I had a chance to see this in New York when I was at Tribeca just a month ago, and it was going to be tight, and we ended up not doing it, and it's now one of my biggest regrets because not only was Brian De Palma there, but Al Pacino was there, and Michelle Pfeiffer was there,
shizzle.
and they did a Q&A afterwards. And in fact, I believe right now at certain theaters across the country, they're replaying that event with the Q&A and everything. I think they're doing it one more night this week, but it's not in our local theater, so we'd have to go to like Orlando, and it's far into Orlando. Because I was actually going to propose that you and I go do that, because we were supposed to watch Scarface for 2 years now, and that's one of the reasons I hadn't watched
Is
it.
it available anywhere now?
On like in the theater?
Demand.
Oh, I own this. Again, I own all of my movies that.
Watching it tonight.
Well, it's another reason I haven't watched it. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes, and I do know what happens, and I have to actually seen the end of this movie, or at least I think the end. I've seen him sitting at the table with the cocaine.
That's part.
Okay, so I've seen most of that like sequence when I was a kid, like I was on regular TV or something, and I turned it on. This is a movie that I know a lot of people love. I avoided gangster movies for a long time. Like, I hadn't seen The Godfather until a couple years ago. Goodfellas, I think I saw within the last 7 years. So this is obviously not the same type of gangster movie, but nonetheless, this is a movie that you hear rappers reference all the time. You see in movie sets, there's often a poster that someone will have to show that they like movies. So this is a film that I feel like most people will be like, "What? You've never seen Scarface?" No, I have not. I know a lot about it, and I've quoted it probably even, I've definitely said "say hello to my little friend" at least once in my life. So, yeah.
We'll get back to that, but I'm going into my high school student mode and going, because I've forgotten that you haven't. I know that we've meant to, and it's best laid plans and good intentions and all that.
Yeah.
The road. And if you're going to say that, you have to say it. We're going to have to work on it because it's say hello to my little friend.
I feel like it's offensive if I say it like that.
What?
I can't do
No.
an accent.
You're quoting.
Well, see,
you're
but
quoting. It's a
even more.
Take it easy.
Well, I mean,
it's just
making fun of, well, not making fun of, but trying to mimic someone's
you're
accent.
You're paying respect.
But if you're no good at accents, it sounds like you're making fun of it. And I've
I
proven
have the bonus.
most of
that
my
I am
accents
Hispanic
sound
and I
Just a
pull
guy.
that out.
Let's start with the, guys, I know I'm really bad at this, but here goes nothing.
Corey, have you seen Scarface?
Yeah, I grew up on that movie. That sounds really bad and weird to say.
Wow.
My dad
No,
loves this
go on.
movie. Like, I can't even remember how old I was the first time I saw it. Same with The Godfather. Like, it was just, my dad loved them. They were on, enough that
Yeah.
it just was something like, oh, hey, cocaine,
I can remember when I originally saw it. 83 release, correct? Or is it
83.
82? 83. I was 10 years old. I saw it in the theater.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh,
So,
goodness.
I
Were
was
you
not
living
quite-
in Miami then?
Yes, we lived in Miami during the time of the Cocaine Cowboys, and one of the neighborhoods that we lived in, one of the better neighborhoods, at the corner was a drug dealer, and we knew because he would have drive-bys done on his home at least a couple of times. We never felt unsafe.
That's crazy.
Because he was the target, not us. Never thinking, we never played around that area. We didn't want, never thinking that we could possibly be part of some sort of collateral damage or something like that. We never. I know that there was a adult film studio based out of one of the houses in that neighborhood. I know that the drug dealer lived in the corner of the street. Yet, besides that, I never felt unsafe. We just lived our lives. I remember driving on 95. I'm not myself, but being able to look under the passes over there where the tents cities. I remember home having we didn't go through there. I just remember because my mom had friends that were way out in the Everglades, where they call it detention centers, whatever it was. I would just soak everything in and get my bearings, directions, and build my own internal GPS. And so. I felt a real connection to it. So I was terrified watching.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know that's, again, this is such a popular film that I've heard so much about it. I've seen clips. I know about it. I will also note, with this director, Brian De Palma, I've only seen 2 of his films. I've seen Carrie, and I saw that when I was probably way too young, and I'm not 100% I can say I've seen it. I feel like wrong saying I've seen it because I know enough about Carrie, and I've also seen one of the other versions of it because they've done it a couple times. But and I've seen Mission Impossible, which I didn't. I always forget he directed that one.
You could dedicate a whole gap list to Brian De Palma films. I've already mentioned Body Double
Yes,
long ago.
and that's been on my radar.
That's one. Dress to Kill is another slasher, and some of them are derivative. He's talked down about.
He's a. I'd say there are some film people who seem to love De Palma, and there are others who say that
very
about him. They're
divisive
very.
director. Blowout with John Travolta. Also
Yeah,
another one.
that one's one I'm
those 3
familiar
I
with.
would say.
And then obviously Scarface,
Scarface, so
which is
there's
kind of, I
4.
think, the epitome of him.
Oliver Stone scripted. So there's 4. Just that your top 5 could have been just.
Yeah,
right.
I know, and that's why I picked Scarface because it is, I think, the populist movie, and it's one that people often it's a movie that when I say I haven't seen it, I get reactions, and I'm sure that's going to happen. And obviously, both of you have a connection to this film in some way, so that's my number 3 only. So imagine what's in 2 and 1.
Hey, man. Hey.
Let's go to Corey for her. Let's go to Corey for her number 2.
You know, man, you should watch this movie right now.
I am going to go ahead and say I'm going to watch this one before the end of the summer.
Ooh.
I've been wanting to watch it for a million years. And we talked about it recently on when we interviewed Jamie Young.
Oh, okay. I know what it is. Is this The
I-
Graduate?
Yes.
Oh,
I
Mike-
really
Mike
want to
looks
see
upset.
What is this list
Graduate.
except to make everyone upset? Except for you and I,
Oh.
when Mike tells us his list, because we have no idea what he's talking about.
I know. I can't wait to hear Mike's number 2.
I know. I'm like, what?
You
I have wanted to watch this movie for such a long time, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And I think that it's on Criterion, so I think I just need to buy it on Criterion.
I'm
Maybe
pretty
I
sure
own
it is. Mike Nichols, Dustin Hoffman at.
Don't.
I mean, one of his. I don't know. Like he's such a controversial actor right now because of a lot of his come out. He's not as controversial as some other people, obviously, but the way he's treated.
Oh.
Actresses. Why can I not think of Meryl Streep's name? Oh my god, my brain just went completely blank. On Kramer versus Kramer, which we just watched. Corey and I just watched for Movie Club a few weeks or a month or God, it's probably been 2 months. But I love Kramer vs. Kramer. I just watched Tootsie for the first time, and I watched The Graduate during the 366. So Corey,
nice.
you're like kind of behind me a little because of my 366. Because a lot of these movies I just finally saw, and this was one of them. And I can't stress it enough. And I did ruin something though for Corey. Is she just watched Wayne's World 1 and 2?
Ruiner.
And I told her that the end of Wayne's World 2 is basically the end of The Graduate, and not realizing she wouldn't have known that. Like,
Oops.
but. So yeah, she kind of knows what happens at the end of The Graduate, but not
Way
exactly.
to go.
Well, no, you don't have to watch it.
Yeah. You've seen Wayne in
Car. Oh no.
You've
What's
pretty
her
much
name?
seen it.
Cassandra.
Cassandra. Yeah, good man. My brain is just shutting down on me. Jamie Young, who we just interviewed for Top 5. This was in his Top 5 movies of all time.
I'm a big fan of
3.
Dustin
I think he
Hoffman.
had 3 Dustin Hoffman movies in
Yeah,
his list.
Midnight
It was
Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy.
This.
That one.
Which-
I was just talking of all films because sometimes Harry Nilsson's Everybody's Talking, and then I have a cover version of that one, which isn't nearly as good. Came up, and I started talking to my son, and Midnight Cowboy came up in conversation, which is odd, but I wanted to give him context on the song because it's so catchy, but then it's so happy, but then all those events that happen at Midnight Cowboy.
Well, I haven't seen Midnight Cowboy either. Corey and I are, but that's not
No.
on my top 5, but it is on my honorable mentions for my gap list.
Okay.
It's it's
I'm
a priority.
walking over here. I'm walking.
Oh, is that from that movie?
Yes.
See, I've heard that quoted. I didn't know that it was
Yeah,
from.
that originated from there. John Voight.
Man,
Now,
yeah.
I'll admit I have not watched Kramer versus Kramer.
Oh, see,
yeah.
I actually was really impressed with Kramer versus Kramer. Although, there was a few. I thought it was going to be a lot harsher than it ended up being because I'd heard of how he treated her. But man, Hoffman has become an actor that I wildly respect. More than I would have ever thought because of his older stuff. Like I grew up, I saw Rain Man in the theater, but then I like Meet the Fockers and whatnot. Like he's funny in it or whatever, but he's not like, you don't think of him as this amazing actor. And whew, I totally wrong. But Corey, yeah, The Graduate is a priority. Definitely watch it as soon as possible.
Do it. Do it. Get to the movie viewer.
Get to The Graduate. All right, that leads us to Mike's number 2. What you got, buddy?
All right, this one's from 1971. It will likely shock the both of you, although I think we've. You all are known. You all are
No.
well aware that I'm into quirkiness and atypical cinema. I feel we've talked about this, and so it may not be a shock. Having said that, I have still not watched Harold and Maude.
Oh,
I
And
love that movie.
Honestly, don't know why. At this point, I think I'm more than just a bit afraid that it's been built up so much I won't like it at all, which I've run
No,
into
it's
a
great.
lot. Yeah, I
it
know.
is.
I know it is. I have a book in my garage, Cult Films 3, which once.
I know the author. I think.
Okay.
Oh man, there's a podcast, Pure Cinema Cast. Pure Cinema Pod.
refers to it. Okay,
Yeah,
I bet you they do.
parodies.
Well, I've yet to get Cult Films 1 and 2, and I've always gone with 3. I had this fixation with 3. I think I found it on its own. I felt like it needed to have a home at my home, and Harold and Maude is in there. There's several odd ones. I could have dug into that book and
Probably pulled just your list from that.
pulled a bunch. Some I'd seen, some I'd not, but I know. I really just need to find it, watch it, see what all the hubbub's about. I get a feeling I will enjoy it.
I just
There's
watched this. like in January, I think. And so I'm glad. Well, one, Corey just met her one requirement that she's seen this movie. Two, I think I watched it on Tribeca Shortlist, which is a $4 or $5 a month subscription service that has a pretty good selection of films, and it is through the Tribeca Film Festival.
So you get a bunch of really,
There's a bunch of high quality stuff.
Yeah.
Minimal numbers. It is compared to like Netflix,
It's
but
very
it's
curated.
almost all really good stuff. And I think that's where I watch Harold and Maude. And it had been recommended by many people to me, including Corey, who's been a huge advocate for it. So I was a little worried of the hype as well. Totally lives up to the hype. It is fantastic. It's endearing and it's funny and it's super dark and twisted. There's a couple of parts where my jaw would I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is what they're going with.
That's awesome.
And yet then you're laughing if you have at least a twisted sense of humor, which we all do. So yeah, that, excuse me, that definitely helps a lot. Oh man, that's a cool one to have on your list though, because it was on my list forever. And
and it's a stark contrast to the majority of my list.
in a way, it's still dark. The other ones were like legit dark.
Yes.
This one's like almost he's almost you, like obsessed with the dark, but not in the dark. You know what I mean? Like
I'm Harold.
yeah, you're like
Except I'm as old as Maud now.
adjacent to it, but not
Mod
actually
79. You're good.
Well, ask some of my students; they probably think I am.
This is a mainstream movie for sure, but it's not as mainstream as some of the other ones that we've listed. Like Corey's have been heavily mainstream. Like The Graduate, I think, is another example of those movies that people put on those big lists. Mine are mainstream so far, predominantly. A couple of them, I think my first three are not on the AFI Top 100. I don't think Scarface is. It might be.
What?
It might be.
No, I think it is.
Okay, then that's the first one. I don't think Green Mile or Iron Giant are. Those are personal. Like, I know people keep telling me to watch those. The next two are on the top 100, and they're two that I just feel, me personally, having not seen these, as something reflective of my choosing, and this one in particular, because I have seen most of his films, and that's Martin Scorsese. I've not watched Raging Bull. And
I haven't either.
I tried once, but
Bits and pieces.
I picked a wrong night. I think I put it on a New Year's Eve one year, and it was like I didn't realize how dark the movie was going to be.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's not how you
okay,
wanna
this
usher in a
isn't.
new year.
Yeah, this isn't going to work. So I did get turned off. It stars Robert De Niro, obviously. Joe Pesci's in it. Kathy Moriarty, Frank Vincent. It is about a boxer, a real life boxer, if I'm not mistaken, Jake LaMotta. Am I wrong on that? It doesn't say if it says bio, so I assume that means real life person. High Metascore. It's definitely on the top 100 of AFI, and I'm trying to work my way through that list. I've seen 48 of the 100 movies on the list.
Wow.
Which there are several that are hard to get without dropping like at least $15 because there's a lot of Chaplin stuff. There's like 3 or 4 Chaplins. There's a couple of Buster Keatons. You know, those are a little harder to get. One I will never watch is Intolerance from G.W. Griffith, the movie where it glorifies the KKK.
Oh, yeah.
And a man in blackface. I've seen enough of the film elements to know, like, yes, he did a lot for film. I don't want to watch that movie, so that one will never be watched by me, even though that one's on Prime.
Oh.
I know. I found, because I was going through the 100 to see what was free to me to watch and what wasn't, and that's like one of the only ones that's free to watch. I'm like, well, okay, not gonna watch it, but there you go. And
Was it profiling you? Was it putting it up high on the recommended
no,
list?
I went through literally all 100 movies and added them to my queue, so I could, like, if I ever want to just rent one, there it is. But so Raging Bull, I own this movie, and again, I've attempted to watch it once. I've not gone back to it. I'm kind of torn on boxing movies. I am a big fan of Rocky, but I wasn't for a long time. I loved Creed.
I love Rocky.
No, I love Rocky. And then there was a movie with Miles Teller that was about a real life boxer from a couple years ago. I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it was a really, I liked it. I thought it was underseen. So this is a movie that I feel like I would love, and I am a big Scorsese fan, and I've been working my way through his catalog. I've not seen everything. I still haven't seen The Last Temptation of Christ, which is on my honorable mention list. And then this is a big one, though, that I've not seen of his. And actually Mean Streets is another of his that I've not watched from his older stuff. But I've seen a lot of his iconic films I have seen. This is probably his most iconic that I have left on my list. That is, because I think Last Temptation is kind of very polarizing. So some people say you should watch it. Some people are like, don't watch it. It's crazy.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You got to understand the source where it originated from.
And what he's coming from. And I love his more recent film, Silence, which I hear is similar in tone.
I need to watch that.
That was good.
But yeah, and Taylor watched Silence with me and also really enjoyed that film, and that's a tough watch, I think, even for an adult. So
I remember there were. As far as Silence goes, Bill and I went to the theaters to see it, and there were two older women, like a few rows in front of us, and they kept like commenting, and I'm just like, just stop.
Yeah,
I can't even remember what they were saying about
What
it.
they say?
I
can't
imagine.
remember. I was just.
It's a tough watch, and there's it's about faith, and so people who are very
Be polarizing.
judgmental on faith could definitely get mad. All right, we're at number 1, guys. Let's hear what Corey's got on her number 1. I can't imagine you've already hit some of the biggest movies in history, so I'm curious if this is going to be like some like curveball. Like I've never seen Wall-E. Or, like,
I love Wall-E. We've talked about this.
I know. I was just making a joke.
I know. So first of all, I lied, so I feel like I need to clear my name. Scarface is not on the AFI Top 100.
Oh, okay. I was right. So Scarface isn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
So my number 1, I think that I've talked about my favorite author in the whole wide world ever. Again, I only read one of his books my whole school career, and everything else has been on my own time. And when I first read The Pearl, I absolutely hated it, and I hated it so much that I haven't revisited it, and that was in the 8th grade. But I chose Grapes of Wrath.
Oh.
I've read the book. It's not my favorite of his books, but I actually own 2 copies. So if we add this to our list, I'll send you one.
Okay.
I did it on accident. I bought a special edition, and then I was in Costco one day, and they have a different special edition, and I just bought it. But I want to reread the book first before I watch the movie.
There you go.
An
Again.
investment of time.
Yeah,
It's gonna be more than 2 hours.
Yes. But I love the book a lot. So, or I enjoyed the book a lot. So I would be willing to do that. And you're talking to the girl that's read East of Eden like 3 times, so it's okay.
I have not read the book, and I haven't seen the movie. Have you seen the movie?
Neither.
Oh, okay. So
I think
Mike and I are
Steinbeck,
with you.
right? That's Steinbeck.
The author?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, I don't know. I
I
don't
think I
read.
stuck with Cannery Row, and I had a previous coworker who was, I believe, I want to say a distant relation. I know they had the same last name, so I'm like, surely.
Huh? Maybe. This movie's from 1940. It's got a 95 Metascore with only 11 critics, but nonetheless, it's obviously a classic film. Is this one on the AFI list, Corey?
Oh, surely.
I think that it is.
Because if it's on my list. I'm pretty sure because I was recently reading about this. Because this is a film I've heard the title a billion times, but I actually knew very little about the plot or anything. And even looking at this, I'm like, yeah, I still didn't know what this was about, or even who's in it. I mean, Henry Fonda, Jane Darwell. These aren't names that Henry Fonda I'm familiar with, but I'm still not like these aren't popping out as the big name actors of the 40s.
Or maybe any.
For me either, and not that I'm going to not watch it. I'm just saying like this is a film that I've definitely know of, but know minimal about, which is not common. So definitely one I need to see as well. Not on my list though. It's not one that I'm putting high as a priority, but
Why I suggested earlier that we should add war films and movies that take place during the Depression to our movie club list.
we need to
look
pick
ahead.
maybe during when November is Veterans Day, right? No.
Ew.
Maybe not. Well, there's something in November. I know that our ROTC program does something every year in November that seems important, so I thought it was Veterans Day, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're right. No, it's right.
I am right.
It's
Okay.
Thank you.
November 11th.
And so maybe we do the month of November as like war and depression movies as our
Jeez.
Hard month.
not depressing movies, depression movies set during the Great Depression. Slightly different, but I guess related. All right, Grapes of Wrath. That's not a bad idea, Corey. I kind of like that concept because I think there's another one or two that I have on my list in that same setting. Technically, It's a Wonderful Life falls into that. They're
Yes,
suffering
it is.
from the depression, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love It's a Wonderful Life.
If Mice and Men, I think.
I've not seen that. It's another Gap movie. There's so many. This Gap list is massive. Mike,
So
what
just
is
John Steinbeck movies in November. Sorry.
John Steinbeck movies?
Yeah.
Mike, what is your number one Gap list?
All right, well, this was my automatic number 1 pick. I get a feeling it will surprise just about anyone that even knows me slightly. So if you're both not surprised, I will be surprised. because I'm a voracious viewer of horror. Have been so since a much too early age, since 11 or 12, or maybe younger. And considering my current age, I'm in my 70s, apparently.
79.
That's a lot of horror. And one horror classic I have not watched to date is 1973's The Exorcist.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That is friend
I'm
of the
very
show,
surprised.
Matt Hudson's favorite movie of all time.
I blame my lapsed Catholic upbringing and being terrorized by my own mother about it, that immediately got pushed back to the furthest, most position in my queue. I've been curious. I've seen parts of it. I know some of the crucifix, the pea soup. I know
It's
some
iconic.
of the,
I mean, you
the
can't not
iconic bits of it.
this.
I have never, ever watched it, or any of its related properties, the TV series, the other sequels or related movies. None of them. I may get my big boy pants on one day and venture forth. I do not know.
It's a
when
hard to
that'll
go
be.
back to for me. Like,
Huh?
I saw this when I was way too young. This is one of the few horror movies my mom let slip through the cracks when I was a kid, and I couldn't lay in the bed because there's the bed shakes, right? And I was just so terrified every time I'd lay in the bed. It's it's gonna shake, and I've not forgotten those scenes from the kid. And I've rewatched clips, and I'm just I don't know if I can sit through it again. And I've seen some of the sequels, which are nowhere near the level. But this is, like I said, Matt's favorite show, and currently Hereditary, the movie Corey and I mentioned earlier, is getting comparisons to this film in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And partly, it definitely doesn't deal with the same source material or anything like that. But I think in terms of how it leaves an impression, I think The Exorcist, of all the horror films I've seen, I think leaves the most impressions that I can remember. Where I've been still to this day, when I lay in bed, my brain will still think, hope it doesn't shake, because of this movie. And I think that it holds up. Again, I wish Matt were here to just talk about it, because I think he would just hold on, let me tell you why you should watch this movie, because it is.
Oh, I know.
Give
I
you
have
a-
plenty of notes. I am a horror aficionado. There's no reason
Yeah.
I shouldn't. I have watched probably much worse than this.
Dude, you've mentioned worse than this tonight.
I know.
Just
and
on this
yet-
list, yeah.
And yet, this one. Well, that's why it's my number one. But this one has remained. I have remained.
You're afraid of it.
Yes,
before
I
seeing
really.
it.
It really.
That's wow, man. That's crazy.
I mean, Pet Sematary was that way for a while. I mean, I remember.
and that's
that
you
one-
being a Stephen King fan on top of it.
Yes, I remember hiding. I did the Joey Tribbiani where I hid the book in the freezer deal way before Friends.
Oh,
I
great.
did,
That's
man.
awesome.
That freaked me out, and it's been. I know it's been on the services to be able to watch, and I've tried to, but the whole child.
Exorcist or Pet Sematary?
Pet Cemetery.
Gage
but-
is.
Yes.
Children are terrifying in horror movies.
Yeah,
I know, but
which
that's
is
just
part
what
of the reason
happens.
Hereditary is so scary.
Yeah. Oh dear Lord.
Man, I kind of maybe we should do a double feature one night. We watch Exorcist and we finish with Scarface. So we knock two of our because
That's a long day, but
it is a long
it
day.
is
But I feel
summer-
like
it's summer.
Scarface, would be a nice palate cleanser where it's a familiar movie, a movie that you connect to your childhood.
horror.
Yeah.
Fine.
It's okay,
I remember
'cause
being
it's
in
drug
drive-bys
dealers.
when I was a kid.
This reminds me of my childhood in Miami. I get warm feelings from this.
But yeah, man, this is one I get though, because it is. I still again have very horrific memories of this movie, and I have not gone back to it. So it's one that I wouldn't mind rewatching for the film element of it, but it's one that I can't just walk into easily. All right, my number one is a huge movie. It is definitely on the top 100. And it's also really, 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 really long, which is one of the main reasons why I've not watched it to date. It is almost 4 hours long. It's 3 hours and 58 minutes. And it's one of Corey's favorite movies, I believe, Gone with the Wind.
It's that long.
It's 3
Yeah,
hours
it's a
and
long
58
movie.
minutes from 1939. Again, I know a lot about this movie. I've heard probably every important line from it. I'm a little uncomfortable with the racism about that's centered to the plot and obviously even to the time period. That keeps me kind of at a distance from it. Stars Clark Gable, Vivian Leigh, Thomas Mitchell, Barbara O'Neill, and then way down on the list. Hattie McDaniel, which is, there's a lot about this movie that I know I should watch. It is still considered one of the best movies, of all time. It's 97 on Metascore. It's, as I mentioned, it's on the top 100. But man, 4 hours is a day. Like I did finally see many people. Corey, I'm pretty sure you could have put this on your list. Seven Samurai is a film that a lot of people have not seen.
I have not seen
And
that.
it's almost 4 hours long, but I did sit through that. But a lot of reasons. One, Akira Kurosawa is a filmmaker who so many of my favorite filmmakers quote as their like inspiration. Scorsese does, George Lucas does. I mean, George Lucas essentially just adapted Hidden Fortress into New Hope, and so I felt a connection to Kurosawa that I needed to see. And I've seen Rashomon and I have Yojimbo, but I've not watched it yet. But that was a day, man. 4 hours is a long setting for any film, and
It's so, and you know what's amazing for the time period, what they were able to do film wise.
yeah. I know I need to watch this. I bought this years ago, and it's been sitting on my shelf. And I mean, during the 366, I had planned on watching this, and I just was like, it's 4 hours. I could watch 2 movies. Or in theory, I could watch 3 if I, picked selectively, like a 1 hour documentary and 2 hour-and-a-half movies. But it's, I'm not super compelled by the story. Like, it's not something that I feel like I need to see for my own. Obviously, I probably do. I'm not saying like AFI is wrong. I'm saying though, in my brain, how I've justified not watching it for so many years, and it's one that's on the back burner for me, and it was the obvious number one when I went to put this list together. I was just like, yeah, that's my number one, Gone with the Wind, because I know so many people love this movie, and it's a classic, and it's up there.
Vivian Lee.
And Corey, I know you.
Cable.
You guys, different sides of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
He'll slap you around.
Well, don't.
Frankly,
I'll be like Scarlett. Yeah.
Do you guys have anything to say about me not seeing Gone with the Wind?
It's not. It's one of Rachel's favorites, and for a long while I was hoping to get her an earlier printing of Gone with the Wind, but those obviously are not easy to find or readily as far as price wise. It's just I don't sit and watch it all the time, but it's one that I think both the kids need to watch at some point. I didn't occur to me. See, we jump in. It's crazy the way the standards are. We jump right into Civil War, and man, I think if we were close to the break,
oh yeah,
that would be. I could see.
Yeah, and it's rated G, but from 1939.
Yeah.
So who knows if today's rating board would still.
Oh,
keep it G or
you
not.
should hear them saying, "Well, we've seen a lot worse in other classes, guys."
Well,
don't.
I've shown Reservoir Dogs to my students, but we have permission slips, so like it's
Right.
a whole other.
No, they want me to write permission
Yeah,
slips.
yeah.
I'm like,
well,
no, I'm not.
Film class, it's a little easier to justify showing something like that. I mean, if it's you couldn't show Reservoir Dogs, but a historical, people show Last of the Mohicans, and they show The Patriot, which is pretty violent in
Very
history
violent.
classes frequently. So I mean, you can do it, but Gone with the Wind.
I don't toe that line.
Yeah.
There. I stay.
I mean, I can't teach a film class and not teach filmmakers, and unfortunately,
Right.
Tarantino is a very, he's out there filmmaker who he has no hesitation when it
wants.
comes to language or violence. He does seem to avoid nudity, which I've noticed with Tarantino's films.
Oh.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's which I'm okay with, but it is like he's uber violent, a lot of cursing, very much the American sensibilities, like these
Except for
things.
that.
But well, no, America nudity's taboo. We don't do nudity.
Well,
I mean, but when we do, it's taboo. It's R. It's always like excessive.
well, he's already at the R level.
But we're much more willing to let language and violence slip through than we are
Blood.
nudity.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's excessive blood, so it's always like, oh, it's movie blood, and people don't bleed like that. Like if Hateful Eight, heads don't explode like that, because even Hateful Eight's closest, I think, to nudity, but it's have you seen Hateful Eight?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They when the story Sam Jackson tells about the guy's
About
son,
yeah.
they shoot it in a way that you're not going to
You're
see
not
anything,
seeing
but
anything.
you almost.
You get the idea.
Yeah, I think even in Django, there's no nudity, there's opportunities in Django for that, for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, okay.
And I could be wrong. In Glorious, there might be, but it wouldn't be sexual nudity. It would still just be like, it'd be for the sake of embarrassment or something. But yeah, I've always noticed that because like even Jackie Brown, there's lots of opportunities for it,
But
and
never.
they don't do it.
Yeah, no, because even the little tryst between Bridget Fonda and Robert De Niro.
Yep, it's all shot in a way that you don't see anything.
Yeah.
But let's get into honorable mentions. Corey, is there anything else that you want to name drop that you haven't seen?
Not things that I really want to see because I don't like musicals, but things that a lot of people love a lot that.
I don't think you should say you don't like musicals. I think you should say you don't like some musicals because you like La La Land, and
I
feel like-
hate La La Land.
What? I don't remember you hating La La Land. You're very wrong for saying that.
John, we've talked about this.
I forget things.
You're like, I can't believe you don't like that movie. Like,
I
it's
still
been
can't
a
believe it.
point. Like,
Maybe that's
since
exactly
the beginning.
what this is proving. I refuse to believe it. In my head, you love it.
No. Well, it's true. I can put it in writing, and I mean, I can't really hand it to you, but I can send you a screenshot of me writing, it in writing. But I haven't seen The Sound of Music or My Fair Lady.
I haven't seen My Fair Lady, actually. I love Sound of Music, though.
Yeah. Wow.
That's another World War movie. So, Corey, if we do that, guess who's watching Sound of Music?
I'm going to be sick that day.
It's so good. There's so many good songs in that movie. Okay, Mike, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yes, I do. I just switched one out. We've talked about Dogtooth, so I really want to see that.
yeah.
The Host, which I've tried watching.
Which The Host?
came. That's a Korean.
But there's like, I know. Okay, so the Korean one. I have that one.
Not the Stephanie Meyer
Yeah.
adaptation.
Okay.
I watched that one, oddly enough.
That's Saoirse Ronan, though, on that one, I think.
That's probably why I watched
Yeah.
it. Because I can forgive her a lot, but that was difficult.
She's in a lot more movies than I realized. Like, 'cause she's
Yeah,
in Hannah,
she's-
too, I think.
Yes,
she has a
yes,
lot
yes, yes,
coming
yes,
out
yes.
this year.
She does. She's got
She's
a busy
busy.
year.
And as well she should be. Crumb, which is the Terry Swigoff.
Don't know that
It's basically an examination of R. Crumb, the artist, comic book artist.
Oh, okay.
Life. It was done right before Ghost World.
Okay.
Sophie's Choice. I've never watched.
That's on my list, too. And
Just knowing
what the choice
yeah,
is?
Yes,
It's like,
yes,
no.
that's just set me up.
Yeah. That's
Snatch.
an AFI. Snatch. I
know.
recently watched Snatch.
All my.
I need to rewatch that.
Yep.
It's super
never,
fun.
Never watched
Brad
it.
Pitt's Gypsy is like
Yep.
the best.
Yep.
That's actually probably one of my favorite Brad Pitt performances because it's the most un-Brad Pitt performance.
Oh yeah, he definitely dives into
Yeah,
that.
and just
But I've never watched it.
yeah, that part's great. That's easily the best part of that movie. Anything else?
That's, I had another one, but it wasn't. I can't.
I'm gonna power through mine because I have a lot, and some of them are big and some of them are not. But well, most of mine are big. Heat, not The Heat. Heat.
Oh man.
12 Angry Men. Network, which is a movie that means a lot to me and I really want to watch because
Yep.
of the premise.
Yep.
The Conversation, which I've bought and just haven't seen yet. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is one of the biggest westerns I've never seen. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Apollo 13, which we've talked about on this podcast before because of Bill Paxton. West Side Story, I've never seen, which is one of the biggest musicals that I've not watched.
Just watched that again today.
The Warriors, which I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
American Graffiti, which is a George Lucas film that I really need to see, and also stars Ron Howard. Oh, I just got to look for my wife. Midnight Cowboy, we already mentioned. All That Jazz, which is the inspiration for Singing in the Rain, or at least it's referenced in Singing in the Rain. I'm sorry, it's the inspiration for Chicago, is what I meant to say. The Last Temptation of Christ, I already mentioned. Out of Sight is one that I personally just really want to see. Primal Fear, we've talked about. And Unforgiven, which I mentioned, De Palma films that I haven't seen.
watch that one.
Tombstone is another Western that I came up when I was a kid and I didn't see it. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is a recent comedy that keeps being brought into my attention.
That one's funny.
And then the last two, Fatal Attraction and Terms of Endearment, I've never seen. I know they're not related.
It's on Stars, Terms of Endearment. I've seen bits and pieces of
Those
that
are
one.
just movies that I feel like I hear so much in the pop cultural references. And I know a lot about Fatal Attraction. I actually think I saw it as a kid, but blocked out parts of it because of the whole rabbit in the pod thing. But yeah, so those are some of the biggest movies that I going through my gap list that I was just like, man. And then again, there's 52 movies on the AFI list, some of which I didn't mention. A lot of Chaplin, a lot of actually a Kubrick film that is not on my, I didn't write down, but I definitely want to mention. I have not seen A Clockwork Orange, and I've
It's a
I've
tough
seen
watch, though.
Space Odyssey. But I saw it when I was a kid, and I definitely think I need to rewatch it with my current filmic mind to really
It's a
appreciate
different
it.
film
Yeah.
experience as of
So that's one I've seen, but I need to rewatch to really appreciate. on the level that film people often do.
Tombstone, I triggered. I know I bring up my students, but I think for whatever reason, I looked up and I just said oh, I'm your Huckleberry. And they looked and like, the look I got, because apparently it's something their stepdad or dad watched a lot, and they knew where that came from. They're like, no, don't do that.
Oh, man.
It just was not liked.
Yeah, and I Tombstone's right at my... I went through a phase when I was younger where I didn't like Westerns because of the association with cowboys and country music. And so Tombstone came out in that time period, so I didn't get to it. And then Unforgiven, I think, similar time period, but not quite. I think they were both early 90s. I saw Young Guns as a kid, and I liked Young Guns, and I think that was just like, that's the Western for me, that and Back to the Future 3.
I'll make you famous.
But as an adult, I've actually grown to like a lot of Westerns. I just haven't gone back to any, and I haven't seen most John Wayne movies. Like The Searchers is on the AFI list, and I need to watch that one.
I haven't watched that.
But... All right, that is our list. We know there's tons of movies that you haven't seen that maybe we have, and there's tons more movies that we haven't seen that maybe you love. So we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at contact@burkreviews.com and tell us. You can yell at me for not seeing Green Mile, or you can tell me another movie that I should see, or a movie that you haven't seen that we've talked about on this podcast. We'd love to hear that from you. You can follow us on social media. I am at Burke Reviews. Corey?
At Corey R Star, 2 R's on the end.
And Mikey?
I'm at Server Monkey.
And thank you for listening. If you like our podcast, if you could share it on your social media and tell your friends about us, it would help to get us new listeners. We're always looking for donations on our Patreon page. So if you want to become a patron, you can get rewards for donating a certain amount of money, but you can do as little as $1 every month and just help us out. It helps defer the cost of seeing movies, running the podcast, running the website. You can read all of my reviews at burkreviews.com. And until next time, keep watching movies.